Hey there, this is Schwermetallisch from Germany, and I'm sitting here with Rich Gray from England. And
Hey.
he's with the band Aeon Zen, and yeah, of course, we have questions. So, how are you?
Hopefully. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah. All doing good. Yeah. Glad I could be here to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here and you found the time to talk to me. So, yeah, there's a guitar on your wall.
That's a bass. The guitars are on the other wall.
Yes.
But I'm not going to turn the camera because I just pushed all the clutter over to the other side of the room, so it's out the shot of the camera.
It was my bad because the body of the bass is. I typically think that's a guitar because I only know guitars that look.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
That's fair enough. Plus, you're quite a while. You're quite a way away over in Germany, so you have to sort of look.
No, I'm just not a musician, and it's like, that's a guitar.
Yeah. Well, bass guitar. So there you go.
Okay.
It's all good.
So, you guys have been around for since 2008.
Yeah.
That's still relatively fresh in the business as Aeon Zen when looking at bands like Iron Maiden who are pushing 40 years.
Yeah, we're just babies.
So you will call it quits after the new record, and why is that?
Well, I think it's kind of just run to a natural conclusion. Like first album came out in 2009, and then the one coming this month actually is going to be the 6th. So I mean, it hasn't been too long a time, but I feel like we've still done and accomplished quite a lot within that. We've put out 6 albums, a EP or 2, a few live albums, done tours, lots of festivals, that kind of thing. And I think everyone also, of course, has their own other projects that they're doing. And like Andy, of course, the vocalist, he's so great at so many different things. And I've got other things here and there doing mixing or doing music of my own outside of Aeon Zen. It just sort of kind of just wound down nicely, and we sort of felt we had the perfect way to sort of put it to rest.
It was like leaving on a high note.
Exactly, yeah, because I find I kind of get a bit not frustrated, but it's just kind of disappointing maybe when bands just kind of fizzle out and they're just sort of one day just sort of announce, oh yeah, we're not doing this anymore, by the way. Like, if there's a band that you really love, and I hope to think that we have a fair amount of people that do love what we've done, as a fan, the way I'd like to see a conclusion to a band, like how that comes about, would actually be to say, like, thank you for everything. We have like one final statement we'd like to put out to say, like, this is where we're at now. And before we go and before we say goodbye to everyone, we'd like to just leave you with this as a way, not just to remember us, but to sort of bring everything to a conclusion and just go out with a bang, basically.
Go full circle, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I know this is a strange comparison, but I don't know if you are familiar with a TV show, Supernatural.
A little bit, not too much. I haven't seen too much.
So they went over the distance of 15 seasons, and originally the show should have ended with a conclusion of season number 5.
Oh, okay.
So you are the idiot version of Supernatural instead of 15 years of the same old.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I think there's quite a lot of bands that maybe could arguably have hung up their boots quite a while ago, but they just keep making the same album, or they're sort of phoning it in, or they're not completely into it. And I just don't want to be in that position. Like, if we're going to make something, then it's going to be on our terms and it's going to be the best that we can do. Like, I never want to put something out where I'm like, yeah, I probably could have done that better, but whatever. Like, this isn't that sort of band,
do you guys have your eyes set on new goals already, or is it something that is?
Yeah, I mean, there's always sort of new things going. Like I'm always writing new music, so I mean, you're going to hear more music from me at least, whether it's, well, not Aeon Zen anymore, but it's going to be other projects. I'm going to be doing other things. Of course, I play with Annihilator as well, so I'm off touring doing all of that as well. But yeah, I think everyone still has their own things that they're going to be doing, so I don't think it's going to be the last you'll hear of any of us. I'd hope at least.
I'm a big fan of Annihilator too.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Of course. I really think that it's just a brilliant musicianship.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Always was, and it never changed. It never really changed.
Yeah. Well, Germany's always a good place to go to play that sort of music, especially. Like it always goes down so well.
Yeah, thrash metal is big in Germany.
Exactly. Yeah.
So. You had in the first albums you put out. You always had guest vocalists like Niels Carew from Pagan's Mind, and Nick DiVigilio. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but
I think you did. Well done.
Yeah,
or at least that's how I've always said it. So,
and it's I have the page here, and
done your research.
Yeah, I tried. It's funny to me that if I hear the band name Spock's Beard, the first thing I think about when it comes to vocalists are, of course, Neil Morse and his follow-up from Enchant and Sword Chamber. Yeah. I forgot the name. Elliot?
Ted Leonard.
Ted Leonard, yeah.
There you go.
He's really great, and he's really a real nice guy, but didn't see much of him lately on the socials. So maybe I'm
because Nick kind of fell. Well, he was obviously with them from the beginning, doing backup vocals and that kind of thing, and the occasional lead vocal. But he kind of fell in the middle of all of that. And actually, there's some really great albums if you don't know them that well, like the self-titled album and Octane. They're really good albums with Nick on vocals too. So if you don't know them, you should check them out.
Yeah, we boarded the Spock's Beard train when Neil Morse was already a vocalist.
Yeah.
And that apparently that was the first prog band I ever listened to.
Oh wow!
And,
good start.
But it's a tough start. Yeah. But the great thing about prog for me is those structures of. We have a song that is 15 minutes long, and it's like 15 songs intertwined with multiple bridges, transitions, and
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of like it's not like writing just a song, because you can do whatever you want. Like, because I find when I'm writing Aeon Zen music, I'm not thinking like, oh, it has to sound like this. It's like, well, I feel like doing a jazz section now, so I'm going to go and do that. And then I can go into like neoclassical Yngwie kind of stuff, and then over to, I don't know, what you'd more consider progressive metal, like Dream Theater Symphony X stuff. But I don't feel confined to that. And that's what I love about sort of actually progressive music, is that it doesn't really force you down any particular avenue. Which is why, like, when you were saying, when you were saying about like guest vocalists, like there's such a wide range of people that I've worked with, like, from Nils to Nick, and those are two hugely different bands, Pagan's Mind and Spock's Beard. They don't sound anything alike. But I think that it just depends on how you use it. Like, if you use their voices in a way that suits them and works for the music, then you can kind of do whatever you want in the end.
When it comes to your approach of writing and composing music, I always asked myself that question when it comes to prog music. When the moment arrives that you know this song is finished.
Yeah. You kind of never do, in a way. Because it's like that old saying, it's like a song's never finished, you just like call it a day and put it out. Because, you know, you can keep changing things forever, like Chinese democracy kind of style. But you know, like, at one point you're just kind of like, I'm happy with how this sounds, and I think this represents where we're at now. So it's kind of like every album or every song is sort of like a snapshot in time. So it's like if I wrote a song now, it wouldn't sound like it did when we released the first or second albums, you know, because you take in all these influences and different things throughout your entire life. So I think like that kind of comes back to the thing I was saying earlier as well about like not just being a band that phones it in and puts out the same album. Because I think if you're really being true to sort of where you're at and who you are, you're never going to make the same thing twice. Like really, because you're never going to be the same person every single day.
Yeah, I think it's not only the approach to composing and writing music. It's also I think there's bands that are like they can put themselves into a certain mood. They need to create their art, their music, and I think that varies from bands like Queen or Aeon Zen or Spock's Beard and Genesis to bands like Steel Panther.
Yeah,
and it's like I don't know, you have to sit down and think over where you're at in life, and you write a song about it, and it's a journey, it's a narrative you're doing there, and guys like the guys from Steel Panther maybe think, okay, tomorrow I get to go into the studio and create some music, so I need some coke.
Well, that's the thing. It's also like storytelling, and you know, in that case, it might be comedy or it might be tragedy or whatever it is. But you know, there's different ways of achieving any sort of result. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think if I would be a musician, I would have everything would consist of weird rituals to get in the mood. It's like you write a certain ballad kind of song, like you know, about the mood you get into if you watch a movie like Dracula. It's like everything's tragic and dark, and it's very theatrical and over the top, and maybe you have to watch that movie before singing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why like sometimes you see like a singer in the recording booth and it's like pitch black, because you know they want to like internalize their lyrics or what they're thinking about so that it comes out of their voice, rather than having loads of distractions everywhere. And like it's just sort of ways of telling stories, I guess.
What about your lifestyle? There are always the party animals that risk their lives on parties after the gigs, and then there's I learned that a few years ago. It was like I always thought if you're in a band, it's like we'll party on stage, and after that we're going to party somewhere else, and no.
No. Well, especially with prog bands, it tends to not be like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, or at least not since like the 70s or 80s at a push. But like, because it kind of attracts the more, I'm not going to say intellectual, because it's not really anything to do with intelligence, but it's like it just attracts people that are into maybe more studious ways of thinking about music, rather than like, I want to play guitar so that I can get all the chicks, kind of like it doesn't really work like that with this kind of music.
No.
So yeah, like I wouldn't say it's never been like wild, but you know, it's not like all the stories you hear of like Van Halen and you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think
not for me at least. I mean, for other people, I'm not going to put words in their mouth, but you know, I just think, like playing the music.
There are bands that just have fun with themselves. Like you're just in the hotel room with the guys, and maybe you get drunk and have fun and laugh a lot, instead of destroying the whole place and trying to bang anything that moves.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It's not in the mindset.
Yeah, but it's kind of the same thing in everyday life as well. You know, you have some people who like going out and getting wasted all the time, and other people who just, you know, like to sit down and watch a good series. You know, like it's just a reflection of people's characters, I guess.
Yeah, of course. Almost anything is a reflection of people's characters and the character of the mob. If many people come
Yeah.
together, and the dynamic, changes dramatically
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
positive or negative direction.
Well, I
But
mean, we've had like some people on the road who are like, I don't know, really sort of tame family guys when they're at home, and then they get on the road and they're just like passed out in the bus nonstop. Because it's like, hey, I'm away from all of that. Now I can go and do everything else that I ever dreamed of doing, you know?
yeah, the fucked up thing about that is we all understand why.
Yeah.
Because everyday life, as beautiful as it can suck too.
Yeah.
And usually not in a way that makes you think about, oh, I want to change everything, I want to
Yeah.
leave my wife, and
But, you know, there's pros and cons to everything.
it's more like I need vacation
Yeah.
from everything, and sometimes you need vacation from being yourself.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, and also I
responsible.
find like maybe being a musician kind of helps with that sometimes, because you can get into the mindset of characters, or you tell stories other than your own life, which when you have like a 9 to 5 regular day job, you're kind of just stuck in your own life in a way. But you know, fortunately we get opportunities to kind of explore other things, and yeah.
Yeah, I get that that metal and prog and rock and all these genres and subgenres that we love so much are way more escapism than other genres.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
like
but that's
pop,
the thing. Like, there's
pop
so
music.
many like heavy bands like screaming about death and killing people. It's like, well, how many of them do you think have killed someone? I'm going to guess like 0.1%, maybe. You know,
Less.
like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you
Yeah,
know,
I-
it is
I
about
think
escapism, and it's kind of, again, it's like if you watch a horror movie, like the person who made that hasn't lived through that. It's a story they're telling, and it's a way of expressing other emotions. Like maybe you feel angry about something else, and then the way that you express that is through extreme lyrics or like ridiculous blast beats and all this kind of stuff, you know?
I always I don't understand why people always think that art they don't understand or they don't like is not good. It's like
Yeah.
the controversy about Stephen King that lasted, I think, 30 years or something like that. And everyone told the world it's like he's not a good writer because he's writing horror stories. And seriously, guys,
If you
just
don't
read
like
a
horror
book
stories,
of
just
those.
don't read them.
Yeah, it's he's a great writer because of that he is fucking famous. Well,
Exactly, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but,
and
but that kind of makes me think of like in the music world, you have like Nickelback, who is like universally hated on the internet. But like if you actually stop and listen to it outside of the radio hits, like there's stuff in there that isn't terrible. Like there's that kind of, I don't know, but you
I
know,
know what you mean.
it's sort of easy to hate on things that you don't understand, especially if you don't put the time into understanding them.
Yeah, and I think that's we would hate less things if we would spend time trying to understand them. That's
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, that is for sure.
Yeah.
But
But you know, there's only so many hours in the day,
that is correct.
and it's much easier to complain.
But back to the main topic, that is you
Yeah.
and Aeon Zen. Yeah, tell me about transversal, and please tell me about what transversal means and why it's called that.
So
name.
the story behind this album, which is essentially one long, like 30-minute song, it was a piece of music that I've written back in 2007. So it goes all the way back to like the year before Aeon Zen was even formed, and it was like the first proper piece of like progressive music that I wrote. Obviously, it wasn't exactly as you hear it now. It's been tweaked and changed over the years, and especially when I went to re-record it now, I added sections and that sort of thing. But like the main structure and recording of everything was there since like 2007. So of course, when it came time, we were thinking like, well, shall we call an end to Aeon Zen? How are we going to do that? And I thought, well, I have this piece of music. there would be like the perfect way to end it, because it's sort of nostalgic and it just sort of seemed to tie everything together really well. And then in terms of the meaning of transversal, it's basically like lines that are cutting across each other, and it's like we're at a crossroads now. So that's kind of where it comes from. The name is basically this piece of music I wrote all the way back there is providing an end to the Aeon Zen story, and then everyone else is going to go off on their own tangents and different lines in life. And then so I had this piece of music. I'm kind of going back and forth everywhere as I think of things, but
that's okay. You're a prog guy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what the music does. You can kind of see why. So I wrote this piece of music. It was sitting there basically in a demo form for 13 years. And when I thought it would be a cool idea to do this, I couldn't think of anything to do like melody wise, lyrically, because I've been hearing this thing for 13 years instrumentally. And then when it comes to actually making it into a proper song, telling a story with lyrics and words, I was like, I have no idea. So luckily, Andy, our vocalist, came up with some amazing stuff on top of it. All the melody lines and lyrics that you hear, he wrote. So I wrote all the music and he wrote all the lyrics. And basically that's how it came about. And that's the backstory to writing the album.
I like how the ending to the band predates the beginning of the band.
Yeah.
And that is the circle, like it goes full circle, and as it goes full circle, I have to return to Stephen King because his greatest story, the Dark Tower story that goes over 7 books, ends exactly like that.
Yeah,
and it begins anew, and it's like there's a bit of story left between the start and the end, just exactly like with a story you just told me.
Yeah.
So that's the Dark Tower of progressive music.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing, because I thought it's quite cool, because this is kind of the piece of music that sparked me creating all the stuff with Aeon Zen since. And then to end with this is kind of like, again, going off on a different path after this, when this was the thing that created that path in the first place. So I thought that's kind of quite an interesting thing to do, really.
The origin of the band and your progressive taste.
Yeah.
So the alpha is mainly is the omega.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's something a bit different, because it'd be easy to just sort of put out a regular album. Oh, I mean, this was fairly easy because I already had it written. But, like just to put out another normal album of normal progressive album of songs. But, to really make something special, this is kind of a different way to do it that maybe makes it stand out a bit more from some of the other albums we've done as well.
So, as I did my research, I saw that one of your guest vocalists was Jem Godfrey of Frost.
Yeah, I love Frost.
Which is funny because I reviewed the newest one a few days ago.
Oh, nice. Well, I have to say, I think Million Town is still my favorite Frost album, which is the one that has Jem singing everything. And I just love the tone of his voice, because I remember him saying that at the time that came out, he got like loads of flack and got panned for the vocals. Like no one liked it because he doesn't have like a progressive rock vocalist range. But I just thought like the tone to his voice is so cool and different than what you hear. So like it was always one of my favorite things, and it was so cool to have him on a song because he provides a different tone than most other people do.
It's funny that he really got flack for his vocals, because when I listened to the new output, I realized there's bits and pieces of Peter Gabriel and Ray Alder.
Yeah.
So those are two very
I've
famous.
always thought that he's been great, but it's maybe people who don't maybe put in as much time to listening to the band, and then they're just sort of trying to compare it to other things they've been told. Oh, it kind of sounds Like there's some bits that kind of sound like yes or something, so they're expecting like vocals up in the stratosphere. You know, like it kind of depends what you go in expecting and if it meets those expectations, or if you go in with an open mind and you're like, hey, you know, this doesn't sound like what I've been told it sounds like, but I like it, you know.
It's like comparing Fate's Warning to Fate's Warning. You have John Arch on one side and you have Ray Alder on the other side, and those guys are so fucking different.
Exactly, yeah. But that's the thing, like anytime a band changes a vocalist as well, that's always tough. Because that's something that you cannot replace and still sound the same. Like, even if you get a sound alike, it's still not the same.
And if your new vocalist doesn't sound anywhere near as the old vocalist, I think that's fucking brave to choose.
Yeah, like to do that instead of start a new band.
Yeah. You can't call yourself like that anymore because the singer sounds like so-and-so. Yeah, I know.
Like, well, I can because it's my band, so you know.
It's my band.
I'll do what I want.
Yeah, it's understandable. Yeah. So.
Where were we?
Yeah, the typical question that always comes when I interview personality from the music business is, of course, how have you been treated by the pandemic situation?
It's tough because, you know, there's obviously been no live music at all, so touring's been off, and I'm kind of lucky in that I do a lot of stuff in the studio. So I've been working with lots of other bands, and that's kind of kept me going. But then even with that, it's kind of like people don't have as much disposable income to put into making their own music, like unless it's their full-time job, which is getting rarer and rarer these days. Like, so there hasn't been as much studio work in general, I think, even though bands have been putting out lots of music. It tends to be maybe established bands. But, you know, that's basically what I've been doing throughout this whole thing, as well as recording Aeon Zen stuff, obviously, is just sort of doing lots of studio stuff. And that's been pretty cool. Because I always love being in the studio. It's like, even sometimes when I'm touring, I'm like taking my laptop and working, like mixing stuff or editing drums or something like that, you know?
So your day is too short, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, especially now because we've got a 1-year-old daughter. So now it's like I'm trying to do all of this at the same time as she's like screaming in my face. It's like, yeah, I kind of need to hear like how the bass is interacting with the kick drum here. And I've got going on in the background. Like,
you can always go full pop on the situation and just use her as a background for her music. Because,
exactly, yeah.
I think the new Pink song has her daughter singing with her, and I don't know what that. I forgot the name of the mentor of Eminem, Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre, I think, put his daughter into one of his tracks, or was that?
No, I think he did like years ago.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Dr.
Was
Dre.
it recently as well?
It was a husband of Beyonce. I always forget his name.
Oh, is that Jay-Z?
Yeah. He did it.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yeah.
So you always have that option. Okay,
yeah, that'll be the next thing.
The microphone.
Yeah.
And that's like, if you exploit your child, it's like you got your wife screaming in the microphone too, in no time.
Now everyone join in. It's fine.
I have to get the neighbors.
Yeah.
So, if everything clears and there's no more pandemic situation worldwide and so on, what is the first thing, aside from music, you want to do as fast as you can?
Aside from music, that's all I do. I don't know. Maybe just be able to travel and go somewhere for a bit of a break. Because, you know, everyone has been stuck in the same places for so long. And especially because my wife has family in Spain. So it'd be nice to be able to go over there a bit more freely and just actually spend some time outside of these four walls.
Yeah, I get that. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things I would like to do will just go out and have a drink, or eat at a restaurant, like something like that. That would be nice.
Yeah, and like actually see friends in like normal conditions.
I always joked about.
And like giving someone a hug and not having it in the back of your mind that you might get sick from it.
Yes, yes. Kiss a hobo in the face.
All the things you always wanted to do.
Yeah, random people. lick random people's face. Yeah, like we always did back in the day.
Yeah, in the good old days.
So, Rich, I'm all out of ammunition when it comes to questioning you. It was very nice to have you.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'm thrilled to hear the whole piece. I did listen to bits and pieces, but the whole piece wasn't presented to me yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope you enjoy it when you do get to listen to it, because it's one of those things I think you have to listen from beginning to end, because it's split into like 10 tracks, but that's basically just for sort of re-listening, or if there's a particular bit that you really loved, you can easily go back to that part. But really, it's basically one song. So yeah, I hope you like it.
Yeah, I guess so. I liked what...
We'll soon find out.
From what I already checked out and listened to, I think I will like it.
Awesome. Thank you. I hope so.
Yeah. Have a nice evening.
You too. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks, man.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.